I've read a lot of these posts over the years, and I always thought I'd never need to write one myself. But after everything that's happened, I honestly don't know if I handled this the right way, or if I just delayed the inevitable. I'm a 38-year-old man. Until recently, I was married to my wife, Rachel, for 6 years. We were together for 9 years in total. Long enough that most people assumed we were one of those solid couples. No drama, no chaos, just quiet stability. But I'm learning now that sometimes quiet doesn't mean healthy. It just means unchallenged. Rachel and I met in our late 20s. She was magnetic, the kind of person who draws attention without trying. Social, witty, expressive. I was the opposite. Calm, structured, predictable. I like plans, routines, and certainty. At first, we balanced each other beautifully. She used to say I grounded her. I used to say she brought color into my life. Somewhere along the way, though, grounding turned into boring, at least in her eyes. The shift was subtle. So subtle, I didn't notice it until it had already taken root. She started making jokes about me in front of friends. Nothing brutal. Just comments like, you know how he is, he'd schedule fun if he could, or he's allergic to spontaneity. People laughed. I laughed too, because that's what you do when you don't want to seem insecure. If I ever mentioned that it bothered me, she'd brush it off. I'm just joking. You're too serious. That became a pattern. Then about a year before the party, she started a new job in marketing. New office, new coworkers, new energy. That's when Evan entered the picture. At first, he was just a name that popped up occasionally. Evan said this. Evan helped me with that campaign. Evan gets how stressful this industry can be. I didn't think much of it. People vent about coworkers all the time. But Evan kept showing up in our conversations. More frequently, more fondly. She laughed more when she talked about him. Her tone changed. One night, she compared us without realizing it. You know, she said casually, Evan actually listens when I talk about my ideas. He asks questions. That stung. I asked her, calmly, if there was something going on. She rolled her eyes. Oh my God. No, don't be that guy. He's just a friend. You're being insecure. That word again. Insecure. It shuts men down faster than almost anything else. So I swallowed my discomfort and told myself I was overthinking. Fast forward a few months. I got promoted at work. It wasn't flashy, but it was significant. Better pay. Bigger role. A milestone I'd worked toward for years. Rachel suggested we host a party. Just something small, she said. Friends, family, coworkers. A celebration. I agreed. I was proud, and I wanted to share the moment with people we cared about. She insisted on handling the guest list. I didn't question it. Why would I? We were married. I trusted her. The night of the party, everything looked perfect. The house was spotless. Music played softly in the background. Food and drinks were laid out like something out of a lifestyle magazine. Guests started arriving. Friends hugged me. Family congratulated me. Coworkers shook my hand. For a brief moment, I felt good. Secure. Like maybe I'd imagined all the tension. Then the doorbell rang again. Rachel went to answer it. When she walked back into the living room, she wasn't alone. She had her hand lightly resting on the arm of a man I recognized immediately. Evan. I felt my stomach drop before my brain caught up. She smiled brightly and said, "Oh, this is Evan. I've told you about him." The way she said it, like this was perfectly normal, made my skin crawl. I shook his hand. He smiled like he belonged there. Not nervous, not hesitant, comfortable, too comfortable. I leaned toward Rachel and quietly asked, "You invited him?" She laughed. Not awkwardly, not apologetically. She laughed like I'd just asked something ridiculous. "Relax," she said. "It's a party. Don't make it weird." A couple of people nearby chuckled, assuming it was harmless teasing. I felt heat rise in my chest, but I didn't react. Instead, I made a conscious decision. I wasn't going to confront her. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to give her a scene she could twist into me being controlling or insecure. I stayed calm, and I watched. Evan stayed close to Rachel all night. Not just chatting, orbiting, standing too near, leaning in when she spoke, whispering things that made her laugh louder than necessary. He refilled her drink without asking. He touched her arm casually. She didn't pull away. People noticed. I saw in the glances, the raised eyebrows, The conversations that stalled mid-sentence when they watched them interact. At one point, one of our friends joked, "Wow, you two seem really close." Rachel laughed and said, "Well, everyone needs a backup, right?" Backup. Man, she said it like a joke. Light, playful. But the room shifted. The laughter died instantly. Several people looked at me. Some looked embarrassed for me. Others looked angry on my behalf. I smiled. Not because it didn't hurt, it did. But because something clicked. The calmer I stayed, the more she pushed. It was like she wanted a reaction. She started telling stories that subtly belittled me. How he plans everything weeks in advance. How he doesn't like surprises. How he's emotionally reserved. Each story ended with some variation of, "Evan understands," or "That's why Evan and I get along so well." It felt intentional. By the end of the night, she was drunk. Not sloppy, but loose enough that her filters were gone. Evan suggested they step outside for air. Then he suggested a drive. "I'll take her," he said casually, like it was already decided. That's when I finally spoke. Not loudly. Not angrily. I said no. "She's staying here." Rachel snapped. "See," she said to the room. "This is what I deal with. He's so controlling." Controlling. Because I didn't want my wife leaving our house with a man, she'd just publicly called her backup. I asked one question. If I invited a woman I call my backup to this party, how would you feel? Rachel froze. She opened her mouth, then closed it. No answer came. The silence was deafening. The party ended shortly after. People made excuses to leave. Hugs lingered longer than usual. A few friends whispered apologies to me as they left. Evan was the last to go. He didn't look smug anymore. He looked uncomfortable. After the door closed, Rachel exploded. She accused me of humiliating her, of embarrassing her in front of her coworkers, of making her look bad. I asked her one question. "Do you think you respected me tonight?" She laughed bitterly. "You're unbelievable," she said. "You always make yourself the victim." I slept on the couch. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. She chatted about brunch plans, complained about a headache, asked if I'd seen her phone charger. That's when I realized something terrifying. She genuinely didn't think she'd done anything wrong. Over the next few weeks, I stopped arguing and started observing. I noticed how defensive she became whenever Evan came up, how she hid her phone, how she started staying late at work more often, how she spoke about me like I was an obstacle instead of partner. I started talking to mutual friends quietly. What I learned crushed me. Apparently, Rachel had been venting about me for months, painting me as emotionally unavailable, controlling, unsupportive. Evan wasn't just a friend. He was her emotional safety net, her contingency plan, her backup. I contacted a lawyer. When I told Rachel I wanted separation, she looked shocked, but not devastated. She asked, "Is this about Evan?" I said, "This is about you disrespecting me so openly you didn't even realize you were doing it." She moved out. Within weeks, she was openly dating Evan. Friends later admitted the party had been uncomfortable, that the dynamic between Rachel and Evan had been obvious to everyone, except, apparently, her. Months later, she messaged me. She asked why I gave up so easily. I replied with one sentence. I didn't give up. I stopped competing with someone who shouldn't have been in the race. So now I'm here. AITA for staying calm, letting her expose herself, and walking away instead of confronting her publicly.